Billionaire investor Ray Dalio famously said, "I'm a dumb shit who doesn't know much relative to what I need to know. Whatever success I've had in life, it has had more to do with my knowing how to deal with my not knowing than anything I know." Ray Dalio is best known as the founder of Bridgewater Associates, which is the world's largest hedge fund. Dalio founded Bridgewater Associates out of his apartment. Now his net worth is more than $15 billion. Ray Dalio said, "I've always been an independent thinker, inclined to take risks in search of rewards, not just in the markets, but in most everything. I also feared boredom and mediocrity much more than I feared failure. For me, great is better than terrible, and terrible is better than mediocre, because terrible at least gives life flavor." Born in 1949 and grew up in a middle-class Long Island neighborhood, Ray Dalio had close bond with his mother. Dalio said, "I was an ordinary kid in an ordinary house and a worse-than-ordinary student. I didn't like school, not just because it required a lot of memorization, but because I wasn't interested in most of the things my teachers thought were important. I never understood what doing well in school would get me other than my mother's approval." Ray Dalio remembered, "My mother adored me and worried about my poor grades. Up until middle school, she would make me go to my room and study for a couple of hours before going out to play, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. She was always there for me. She folded and rubber-banded the newspapers I delivered and baked cookies for the two of us to eat while we watched horror movies together on Saturday nights. She died when I was 19. At the time, I couldn't imagine ever laughing again. Now when I think of her, I smile." Ray Dalio said, "When I didn't want to do something, I would fight it. But when I was excited about something, nothing could hold me back. While I resisted doing chores at home, I eagerly did them outside the house to earn money. Starting at age 8, I had a newspaper route, shoveled snow off people's driveways, caddied, cleaned tables, and washed dishes at a local restaurant, and stocked shelves at a nearby department store. Having those jobs and having some money to handle independently in those early years taught me many valuable lessons I wouldn't have learned in school or at play." Ray Dalio's journey from a normal childhood to become one of the world's most notable investors began when he was just 12 years old. Ray Dalio said, "In those years, everyone was talking about the stock market because it was doing great and people were making money. At that time, I was working as a caddy at a local golf course, so I took my caddying money and started playing the stock market. My first investment was in Northeast Airlines. I bought it because it was the only company I'd heard of that was selling for less than $5 a share. I figured the more shares I bought, the more money I would make. That was a dumb strategy, but I tripled my money. Northeast Airlines was actually about to go broke and another company acquired it. I got lucky, but I didn't know it at the time. I just thought making money in the markets was easy, so I was hooked." In those days, Fortune magazine had a little tear-out coupon you could mail in to get free annual reports from Fortune 500 companies. Ray Dalio said, "I ordered them all. I can still remember watching the mailman unhappily carrying all those reports to our door, and I dug into every one of them. That was how I began building an investment library." During his time as a student at Harvard, Dalio learned a lot about commodity futures. Stock, bond, and currency futures didn't exist back then. Commodity futures were strictly real commodities like corn, soybeans, cattle, and hogs. Ray Dalio loved trading in commodities like livestock, meat, grain, and oilseed markets, because they were concrete and less exposed than stocks to distorted perceptions of value. While stocks could stay too high or too low because greater fools kept buying or selling them, livestock ended up on the meat counter where it would be priced based on what consumers were willing to pay. Shortly after leaving Harvard, he had his first Wall Street job at a firm called Shearson Hayden Stone. Dalio's Shearson clients are mostly cattle producers and grain dealers. Dalio developed quite an expertise in the grain and livestock markets, which often led him down to West Texas and the agricultural areas of California. Since livestock eat mostly corn and soy meal, since corn and soybeans compete for acreage, those markets are closely related. By knowing how many cattle, chickens, and hogs were being fed, how much grain they ate, and how fast they gained weight, Dalio could project both when and how much meat would come to market, and when and how much corn and soy meal would be consumed. Likewise, by seeing how much acreage was planted with corn and soybeans in all the growing areas, doing regressions that showed how rainfall affected the yields in each of these areas, and applying weather forecasts and rainfall data, Dalio could project the timing and quantity of corn and soybean production. To him, it all looked like a beautiful machine with logical cause-effect relationships. By understanding these relationships, Dalio came up with better trading decisions. This wasn't academic learning. Ray Dalio said, My clients were cattle producers and grain dealers, and they were great folks who brought me into their worlds. They were people with practice in the business and showed me how the agricultural processes worked. As much as Dalio loved the job and the people he worked with, he didn't fit into the Shearson organization. He was too wild. Dalio even hired a stripper to drop her cloak while he was lecturing at a whiteboard at the California Grain and Feed Association's annual convention. He also punched his boss in the face. Not surprisingly, he was fired. Ray Dalio said, "The brokers, their clients, and even the ones who fired me liked me and wanted to keep getting my advice. Even better, they were willing to pay me for it. So in 1975, I started Bridgewater Associates. I worked out of my 2-bedroom apartment. When Dalio's roommate moved out, he made his bedroom an office. He worked with another friend he played rugby with, and they hired a great young woman who worked as their assistant. That was Bridgewater Associates. Bridgewater eventually becomes the world's largest hedge fund and earning more money for its investors than any other hedge fund. I hope you liked this video. Thanks for watching.